Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing tonight, fellas?
Very good.
All right, and we have a very special guest with us this week. We have the Philadelphia... I had something in my throat, sorry. We have the Philadelphia Eagles coach and my rival from up north, James Bloomer. How you doing tonight, James?
I'm doing good. I can understand why you'd have a hard time saying something that wins. I mean, it's not something you're used to.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go. Hey, I had to get it started off early. So, first off, kicking it off to you guys, I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Again, I did send a message out. I just could not go last week for the show, so hope you guys understand that, and I do apologize for that. But we are back with a new show covering the Week 13 games and going into the Week 14 games. So if you guys are ready to go, we're going to jump right into this and get this thing kicked off. So for Week 13, our player of the week is from Jacksonville, and it's the quarterback Jordan Love. We'll talk a little bit more about him when we get into the Jacksonville game. So we're going to jump. Oh, before I get into it too far, our middle segment this week, we're going to talk about the trades or lack thereof, and we're going to start jumping into the playoff race as well. So just kind of give you guys a heads up what we're going to jump into this week. So let's go ahead and get this started off with the first game of Week 13. We have the Denver Broncos hosting the New York Jets. Definitely the Jets have throttled back a little bit. They don't have their normal foot, on the, pedal to the metal and stepping on people's necks, because they've, I think this is the most losses I've seen from them since I've been in the league, as Denver took this game 39-34. We are going to start with James this week.
Was a really good game. The surprising thing about this is the Jets actually had the ball on the 24-yard line with seconds left and couldn't put it in. So, I mean, they were right on the border of winning this game. But great job by Denver. Nice to see that teams are starting to stand up to the Jets.
Yep. Mitch.
Yeah, this is one here where the outcome isn't overly surprising just based on the two teams this year and what we've seen on the field. But I guess what is surprising is the way the game went. 39-34, a ton of offense for two teams that typically play very strong defense, or at least, are able to hold teams, pretty low from a scoring standpoint. So to see such a high-scoring game, that was the shocking part to me. But seeing Denver kind of squeak this thing out, not shocking at all, based on, as we've seen the Jets, not quite the Jets this year.
All right, Dean.
Although we didn't do a show last week, this was a game that I had put my lead pipe lock on, and it was in danger of being a lead pipe curse if the Jets had scored that touchdown from the 24-yard line, but that didn't end up being the case. So I kind of thought that Denver would scout the Jets and come up with a way to win this game, and that's exactly what they did, and it turned out to be high scoring, as Mitch mentioned, and not a whole lot of defense by two teams that play defense pretty well, but Denver won this game, and I think showed at least one way in which whoever plays the Jets in postseason can replicate this result and knock the Jets out of the playoffs, and I'm going to guess that's probably going to happen.
All right. Next game, we have Minnesota hosting New England, and Minnesota does what they do. No alcohol today, guys, so I can't do the drinking game. But Minnesota took this game 40-11. Mitch.
Yeah, this is a tough game for New England. We all know that, Barney, when he wakes up on Friday mornings getting ready for Friday Night Lights, he wakes up and pisses excellence, and he pissed all over the Patriots this week. I just hope that Mox can get dry and get ready for next week's game versus Houston.
All right. Dean.
Wow.
Yeah,
this was a pretty lopsided effort. The Vikings did a whole lot of things that the Vikings usually do, and that is they ran up almost 600 yards of offense. They passed very well, 24 for 38 for 3 touchdowns and a single blemish with the interception. They ran the ball 26 times for 141 yards. That's 5.4 yards per carry. They did a lot of things. They did very well, played some pretty solid defense, holding the Patriots at just 11 points. I believe that was a touchdown with a 2-point conversion as well as a field goal. I think is how they accounted for those 11 points. But, yeah, New England was pretty dominated. Whatever Mox himself was on, his team was on a lot more because they did not play very well.
All right. James.
I didn't hear you mention the fumble that Minnesota lost too. So Minnesota actually had 2 turnovers and still won 40-11. They completed 63% of his passes. Those passes were going for 19 yards of completion. That's insane. You're going to dominate any people you do that. Let's be honest. Barney's the best coach that's active right now. It's hands down.
All right. Next game up. I think this one was supposedly was going to be, I think it was a 2-touchdown spread. We know the coach was out sick, but clearly whoever took over for him did a number as Seattle hosted Indianapolis and shocked the league by taking this one 37-30. Dean.
I don't remember who it was. It wasn't me, but I remember at one point we were looking at the remaining games that Indianapolis had and whether the Colts are going to make the playoffs. And someone said they could see Indianapolis losing to someone like Seattle. I don't remember who said that. I don't think it was you, Mark. Maybe it was Mitch. Maybe it was Rich. That might have been on that week, whoever it was. But anyway, yeah, that's what happened. Seattle played pretty strong, especially early in the game. And as I remember, Indianapolis kind of staged a comeback but fell short by a touchdown. And, I think it indicates one thing. People just can't assume they see a team like Seattle or a couple of other teams say, oh, that's just a bye. I'm going to beat them easily. And I'm not sure what's going on with Indianapolis. They've lost more of the games lately than they did earlier in the season. They were looking pretty solid the first half of the season. Now they may not make the playoffs.
All right. James.
This game was Seattle jumped out dominating it, and then they tried doing like where you're from. They tried being the Lions of the 80s and 90s and see how many points they could give score a point on the team and still lose. You luckily pulled this one out. I wouldn't count Indianapolis out. They actually have a couple key tiebreakers that might let them sneak in.
Okay. Mitch.
Yeah, this is a game that Indianapolis wishes they had back. It's a game that they definitely expected to win. A game you've got to win if you're in a tight playoff race going against a sub-500 team. There is an investigation that is going on. I'll bring this out, breaking news from the PNFL News. There is an investigation for point shaving for the Seattle coaching staff. The fourth quarter of that game with just the awful coaching decisions made around passing the ball on running downs and timeouts. This really allowing Indianapolis to make this game much closer than it should have been. So more to come from that league investigation.
He was auditioning for the Chicago Bears job.
Wow. Okay, fellas. I see how we're...
Is that investigation going to be conducted by John Durham so he can lose in court again and be a total embarrassment? I don't see any evidence behind those allegations.
Next game up, we have Atlanta. I guess you could say was hosting Jacksonville, or Jacksonville pretty much just took over the place and ran everything as they took this one 36-3. James, you're up.
I will say Atlanta had been really good at that. They had 163 yards in kickoff returns. Other than that, there's nothing here. I mean, 11 to 28 from passing. They ran 6 times for 2.8 yards. They had no offense, and Jacksonville is not that great of a high-power offense, and somehow that offense had 306 yards passing, 484 yards. I just don't know if Atlanta showed up.
Mitch.
Yeah, this is one here where, I know we're talking about an investigation being done, in some of the other games. This is one here where there's going to be a Netflix special. It's going to be an illusion, because apparently Atlanta gave the illusion that Jacksonville is a good team if you watch this game. And we all know Jacksonville is struggling this year. But to Jacksonville to win 36-3, wholesale change is coming to Atlanta, I was suspecting, the offseason.
Yeah, and also you got to remember Jordan Love was player of the week in the PNFL, and he plays for Jacksonville. So, Coach, what didn't happen?
What didn't happen? Everything. Defense wasn't played, and the team forgot how to play offense. The running game didn't do much of anything. I mean, one running back, well, it wasn't a running back. It was Worthy, the wide receiver, ran once for 9 yards on one of those wide receiver toss sweep plays. Mm-hmm. And that was the entire running game right there. And the passing was pathetic. Talking about a quarterback having issues with the forward pass, 11 out of 28, 39%. I mean, I could have just as easily had Justin Fields or Trey Lance doing 39% passing. I mean, that was not happening. I mean, supposedly plays that were supposed to perform weren't so good. So,
well, I will say this, in the defense of Xavier Worthy, that one character. He may have had a lot more rushing yards on that play, but he was probably exhausted from running those 7 wind sprints on kickoff returns. But that's just one man's observation.
Okay. Next game up, we have the New York Giants hosting the who? Houston Oilers. And Mitch definitely got his team moving again in the right direction as they took this game 33-17. We're going to start with you, Dean.
Well, at least the Giants showed up and scored 17 points on offense. And Daniel Jones went 16 of 37. Not a single touchdown pass, and yes, he did throw an interception. I mean, if Daniel Jones starts the game and doesn't throw an interception, that's a miracle. But they ran 20 times to 87 yards. I mean, that's some respectable rushing yards. But against it, Houston ran for 173 yards and passed for 165, which is not a whole lot, but it was adequate. And it was good enough to win by 16 points over the Giants.
All right, James.
Giants seem to put up a good fight. I'm kind of wondering what's going on with Houston, that this game was as close as it was, honestly. But one thing I do notice is Mr. Throw It Down the Field only averaged 9.2 yards per completion. So high efficiency offense now, Mitch?
Yeah, what do you got, Mitch?
Do y'all remember this game was like 33-3 or 33-10 or something like that? So I think maybe y'all went to sleep because it was such a beatdown on Friday Night Lights. Y'all actually forgot what happened in this game. And, the good thing about having a balanced offense, James, is that when the team is playing deep coverage and you can't get the deep passes, you can run all up underneath them, which is what happened. So, feel good about this team. Feel good about this game. And in Houston right now is the team that nobody in the AFC wants to face. Nobody wants to play Houston right now.
I only see 173 yards rushing, so I don't see a running game.
Okay. Next game up, we have Las Vegas hosting Pittsburgh, and it was Pittsburgh all day, every day, as they took this one 38-13. Mitch.
Yeah, Pittsburgh did what we expected them to do to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is not good. I'm not sure what happened to them this year after what looked like they took a step forward last year. Definitely took Aiken a step back. Pittsburgh, looking strong across the board, running, passing, defense. So good job for Pittsburgh.
All right. Mitch. I mean, Dean.
I just spoke, Mark. You want me to do that again? Is this take two?
Yeah, take two. Dean, you're up.
Yeah, Pittsburgh was dominant in this game. I mean, they converted 65% of third downs. They went 1 for 1 on fourth down. They had over 400 yards, balanced offense, and the Raiders just didn't really do a whole lot. The quarterback passed for 42%, and they ran for 11 times for 66 yards. I mean, not bad. It's 6 yards per rush. They just didn't do enough of it. But, the Raiders have taken more than a step, more like 3 or 4 steps back this season.
James.
Yeah, I think they should have just ran the ball more. It looks like they actually developed a good running game. They just kept chunking the ball down the field. And they didn't really chunk it that far. It was only 10 yards per completion. So, I mean, at 42%, you can't win in this league if you're holding it that short.
Agree. Next game up, we have Philadelphia hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. And Philadelphia, like the previous games we talked about, they rolled as they took this one 41-17. Dean.
Yeah, this game was pretty dominant. I expected this to be much closer. I expected the Chargers to be stronger in this game, but they put up a fight, but they just weren't all that effective. They ran for 141 yards, but they only passed for 123. That's not going to get it done for this team. And the Eagles were pretty solid. They scored 41 points and had good balanced offense and 536 yards total, 265 passing, 261 265 in rushing and 271 passing. So pretty solid effort all around. And the Eagles are 11-2 and leading by a single game over Jerry's Washington Redskins.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, this, I thought that Los Angeles was going to put up a much bigger fight. They did not. So Philadelphia showing that, maybe they're going to be adequate this year and do something in the playoffs.
Coach Bloomer, what do you got for your boys this week?
Honestly, the game plan just led into what I noticed Los Angeles was struggling with. Los Angeles was struggling with the passing game. So I attacked through the air the first half. And contrary to what people were saying about running up the score in the second half, I did not complete a single pass in the second half. So I was running the whole time. But, see, Mitch, this is a running game. 265 yards passing, not your 170-something.
Do I not see W's by both names? That's all I got to say.
Boy, we got a little hot sauce. We got a little spiciness going up in here tonight, I see. Next game up.
I just want to comment one thing. The interesting thing about that is 250 of that was in the second half.
Get a little spicy over here. Next game up, coming down to the last two, we have the Chicago Cardinals hosting the San Francisco 49ers, and Charlie just keeps marching on as they take this one by field goal, the score of 38-35. James, you're up.
This game, San Francisco jumped out to like a 38-21 lead at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and then Chicago came back and ended up missing a field goal in the final minutes to not tie this game. So Chicago's still there. Great job by San Francisco. Nice running attack, nice balanced offense, and great game plan against Chicago. But you got to finish it.
Okay. Mitch.
I know one of the things we had talked about pre-show was the running game and how, a few weeks back, I was the one who even brought up, the lack of running here this season. But I swear, both these teams over 200 yards. We had another 200-yard performance, Philadelphia. I had 170 plus. There were some others out there with over 100. This week, teams seem to have found how to run the football, or at least teams have tried to defend the pass so much that finally the running backs are finding some holes. I don't know, but fun game. But the one thing you can tell when Chicago and the Jets are maybe just a little off their game is that their defense is not as strong, because those two teams typically lead the league in defense, or at least in the top three, and they're both struggling here this week.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, that's a good point. Chicago and the Jets both gave up 30-something points. I think in this game, Charlie scouted Chicago and probably had an idea that Chicago wasn't going to change up their stuff very much, and found a way to win, holding on against that comeback that Chicago mounted, which, Chicago and the Jets have been pretty good at comebacks. That's why they win as often as they have, because even in games where you beat them in the first half or even the first three quarters, they find a way to come back. And Chicago almost did that here, but just fell short with that missed field goal, and the 49ers survive. And I think, James can correct me on this, but I believe did this win at least clinch that the 49ers are in the playoffs no matter what seed they're in? No, it hasn't.
Not even close.
Okay, well,
they have a good shot of not making the playoffs, actually.
Oh, yeah, but it gets them a step closer by winning rather than losing. If they'd lost to Chicago, they'd be in worse shape.
Oh, if they lost to Chicago, I think that Chicago would be almost a lock for the playoffs.
So this was a key win for them then.
Yes.
Okay. Last game for week 13 as our only overtime game. And if you guys are in for Friday Night Lights, definitely you guys are in for a treat on this one, as the Washington Redskins took on the Green Bay Packers. And even though Shuggy put up a damn good fight, came up just a bit short, as Washington took this one on a touchdown in overtime by the score of 33-27. Dean.
Yeah, no one in this league is better at scoring points on so little offense as the Green Bay Packers. They had 210 total yards of offense. And by the way, I know we didn't do a show last week, but I had predicted that Washington was going to win but not cover the spread. And I don't remember what the spread was, but it was probably more than 6. And the Packers are able to do some things and take this game into overtime. And I believe they each had, 2 or 3 possessions in overtime before Washington finally scored. So, it was even winnable in overtime. It's amazing what Green Bay can do with 210 yards of offense compared to what many of our teams can get 210 yards of offense and not even score. Green Bay scored 27.
James.
Well, Dean, that was all Washington. This is a game that shows you why giving teams short fields is very, very, very bad. Just to give you an idea, in the first half, they put up, I think, 21 points or so, and Green Bay didn't have a drive over 17 yards. There was an interception, a kickoff return, another interception. It was just Jerry giving him the ball in the red zone and him getting a chance to punch it in. This was completely Washington trying to lose this game, not anything about Green Bay's offense.
Jerry is generous then. Jerry is generous. We can congratulate Jerry for being generous.
Yeah, because Jerry gave up 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles and a kickoff return for a touchdown. He should have lost the game.
All right. Mitch.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think y'all already said it. How in the world, a team, is turns the ball over 4 times, a 4-0 turnover ratio, and still finds a way to win the game is pretty amazing, actually. Back to the drawing board for Shuggy.
Okay, so I suggest when I play Jerry later this season, he can go ahead and give me 4 turnovers and a kickoff return for a touchdown and see if I can manage to find a way to outscore him.
Is Dan Campbell in the building? Because that might be the reason.
Yes, sir.
Dan Campbell, Lions
Dan
coach.
Campbell, Lions coach.
Oh.
It went over his head. It went over his head. He'll be all right.
Yeah, the 5 interception game that they still won. Yeah,
Yes, the
one.
5 interceptions that Jared Goff won and threw, and the Lions still found a way to pull it out of their butt at the end. So, yeah, that was one of those games where it was just like, no way. 5 interceptions, you don't win with 5 interceptions, but they did. So, all right, so we have gone through our week's games. We're going to pivot on over to our middle segment. We're going to do a double on this one. The first thing we're going to talk about is what the trading deadline has already passed. So, and pretty much let's just call it what it is. There was no trading, and it was something that we kind of talked about a little bit as far as what's been going on with the league regarding that, and a couple other things going on with the league. So we're going to go ahead, and I think I'm going to start with, I'll have Dean go ahead and kick this off, and then we'll pass it over to James and get his opinion, and then have Mitch kind of close it up on this short segment, and then we'll go ahead into the playoff race. So with the trade deadline passed, what's your opinion on this one, Dean?
Yeah, the trade deadline passed, and before that, there were several teams trying to trade players. I had some players available, a couple teams with players in their last season, Chicago, and I think 1 or 2 others were offering players. I mean, it was to the point where you practically couldn't give away players, and part of it might be just overall too much talent up and down the league across the board. And also, you just couldn't give away players. I mean, it seemed like a lot of the players that were being offered weren't worth it to other teams, and everyone's roster is stacked with talent. Everyone's roster has at least 58 to up to 63 players on roster. So some teams maybe that might have been interested in some of those players don't even have a place for them because their rosters are completely full. I think that might be part of what's going on. So the trade deadline came and went, and not a single last-minute trade before the trade deadline was even made. I mean, usually there's at least a few moves. This time, nothing. I mean, you couldn't, like I said, you couldn't give away players. You couldn't say, I'll give you all of these guys for a 1 point or a 7th-round pick. Nothing moved, and I think that's something I don't know entirely what the cause of this is. I think part of it is too much talent level around the league. Teams' rosters are too full. I mean, most teams are carrying all 10 players on the practice squad, and to trade for a player means you have to make a roster spot for them, and if you're going to keep them long term, you have to sign them to points. I don't want to open up that can of worms, but maybe we should look at whether this point system is really working. And I know some people do and don't want to bring back the salary cap, and I know that's just as divisive as asking people whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump when you bring up the salary cap issue. People either love the salary cap or they can't stand it. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions we can probably think about, but regardless of what we may think, it is kind of a signal, I think, that trading was just totally dead this season, especially before the trade deadline closed. Just nothing happened.
All right.
So I wanted to put that as an issue for everyone to think about.
All right, James. So what do you think about that? And what else do you, and you can expand upon it on that topic and then other topic as well. So what do you think?
Okay. As a record, I am against the salary cap. The political ones, I was against both parties, so it doesn't matter. But as far as the trade thing, I think the things that have hurt trading are things that have been good for the league. I think the new anti-aging allows teams to make decisions in the earlier parts before the season starts and move players that they're not going to need, or move them earlier than the trade deadline to other teams if they're going to retire. It also lets you already have planned. The other thing that does it is the not trading after the Super Bowl before the beginning of the season. You are now starting your season with knowing your 53-man roster pretty much at the end of the season. So you're not looking to make moves, because why would I want to mess that up? Why would I give you a 7th-round pick for a player that is only going to play for me for the next 6 weeks if they're not going to be a surefire starter? Kind of like with me going after Rosen as a quarterback, who, by the way, is the number 2 rated quarterback in the league right now. You have to you're making only moves that are going to be really quick moves. You're not looking to make big moves or pick up marginal pieces that people are just trying to get rid of because they don't want to cut them. So that's why the trades aren't happening. Plus, you have people that affiliated trades, like me, who was like always looking for trades, who's not really interested in trades right now. I got my team's pretty set.
All right. Mitch, what's your take on it?
Create more differentiation in ratings, put a salary cap in, you get some trades. That's all I got.
No salary cap.
Salary cap.
Nope.
Yes.
Okay, so 1 for salary cap, 1 for no salary cap. Break the tie, Dean. What do you want?
What's that?
Break the tie. What do you want? 1 calls for a salary cap, 1 doesn't want a salary cap. What's your take?
I vote for the salary cap if it comes with getting rid of the points. I think we need to do cap of points, but not both. That's my stance.
Okay, one or the other.
So basically, nobody agrees with anybody, so it's all good.
Kind of sounds like the status quo.
Okay. All right, so we're going to jump into the second part of this segment. We're going to look into the playoff race that we have coming up currently right now in after week 13. We have in the AFC in the East, we have the New York Jets sitting at 10-3, Indianapolis Colts sitting at 7-6, New England at 5-8, Jacksonville at 4-9. Over in the West, we have Denver at 9-4, Pittsburgh and LA at 8. Actually, Pittsburgh, LA, and Houston all at 8-5. That tiebreak is going to be interesting. And Las Vegas at 1-12. Over in the NFC on the East, you have Philadelphia sitting at top at 11-2, Washington 10-3, Atlanta 2-11, and New York Giants at 1-12. Over in the West, you have Minnesota at 10-3, San Francisco 9-4, Chicago 7-6, Seattle at 4-9, and Green Bay at 3-10. So, just going to go ahead and we will start with the guest, have him look either AFC or NFC, take your pick as far as how you think the playoff race is going to shake out. And then I'm going to torture both Mitch and Dean and have them each look at the opposing conference. So, James, let's take your shot at this. How you see the playoff race shaping up?
I'm going to do a quick, if you don't mind, I would mind doing a quick rundown of both conferences real quick.
Sure,
The
go
AFC
for
is not
it.
going to take long at all.
Go for it.
Basically, Philadelphia and the Washington, just to give you guys a heads up, the only way Washington can get the division is if Philadelphia loses 2 games. Philadelphia will have the tiebreaker unless they lose to one of the division opponents, other than Washington, and lose to Washington. As far as Minnesota's in right now, so is Philadelphia, so is Washington. As far as San Francisco, Chicago, that's going to be an interesting thing. The only thing that gives San Francisco an advantage right now is they've got a 2-game lead. So if Chicago loses 2 games, they're in. But there is almost no way that San Francisco can get the tiebreaker over Chicago. So if Chicago can pull off winning out, which one of those games is Minnesota, so not likely, there's a chance that they can still make it. As far as the NFC, the Jets are in.
AFC.
And AFC, Jets are in. Indianapolis has the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh and LA. So depending on how that shakes out, that could be very interesting. And one thing to look at in that, the way tiebreakers work is if you have tiebreakers between divisions, only one team from that division can enter the tiebreaker. So it would be a tiebreaker of the West to figure out who the best team in the West is, and that's the team that would go against Indianapolis in the tiebreaker. So if Pittsburgh or Indianapolis ends up with the tiebreaker over the other team could end up getting knocked out, even if they have, like Houston, have the win over Indianapolis. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's pretty much it. I think Houston and I think the West teams are going to do it. I don't think Indianapolis will make it, but I think they have a shot.
So it'll be pretty much all the West divisions for the two wild cards.
I think it will be, except they're going to cannibalize itself. After the Pittsburgh-LA game, it'll hopefully shake out a little bit.
Okay.
Which of those three would be? I mean, there's three teams tied at 8-5.
It'd be Houston. It'd be Houston, Denver, and the winner of the Pittsburgh-LA game.
Okay. Let's go ahead and start with Mitch. Mitch, we're going to have you talk about the NFC side. Have you expand on the NFC playoff race.
I don't care about the NFC playoff race, man. I'm in the AFC, but okay. The NFC, I mean, I think it's already set. I mean, I know Chicago still has a chance. The Dumb and Dumber, there's still a chance, but I think it's set. I think you got your four teams with Philadelphia, Washington, Minnesota, and San Francisco. We'll just see who ends up getting that number one seed, which right now, Philadelphia is, in the lead for that, but, 3 games to go. AFC is just an absolute, disaster. But I think what James just shared, I think really is kind of how that's going to break out. I think this Pittsburgh-LA game this week is going to be huge. It's going to absolutely determine I think it's going to determine who gets that fourth spot, assuming we don't have, a collapse by some of these other teams in the race. So it'll make it interesting these last 3 weeks for sure.
Okay. Dean, you're up. What do you got?
Yeah, I think the first question settles whether or not Indianapolis will make the playoffs, and it's not looking good. The last 3 games against Jacksonville, the Jets, and then Denver, they could easily win. They could easily lose 2 out of those 3. That's assuming that Jacksonville doesn't pull off an upset, and you can't rule that out either. So I'm going to say that Indianapolis is probably not making the playoffs. I know there's a number of different things that are mathematically possible, but I think likely Denver wins the division. And then I think you have the 3 that are tied, and 2 of those 3 win, and I'm not sure which 2 of those 3 will survive. I mean, it may not even come down to a head-to-head. It might be that one of those teams has one more loss than the other 2 and doesn't make it. So if one of those teams is, say, 9-7 by going 1-2 the next 3 weeks, and the other 2 are 10-6, then the 10-6s make it. And it can be any one of those teams. It could be 9-7 or 10-6 or lose 10-6 on the tiebreaker. So there's still many, many combinations that can happen, but I don't know why it's ranked that way. Now, right now, the standings are ranking them in order at Pittsburgh, LA, and Houston in that order. I don't know whether the order makes sense. Houston has the longest winning streak at 6 games. With the way LA has played lately, it would be almost easier to say maybe that's the team that doesn't make it of the 3, maybe Pittsburgh and Houston are the wild cards, but we'll see what happens. I mean, there's still a lot that can happen in these 3 weeks between those 3 teams.
Well, if you scroll down to the standings, you look at the thing. Pittsburgh has a tiebreaker over LA for head-to-head, and LA has a tiebreaker over Houston because of division record. So that's why they're ranked in that order.
Okay, it makes sense.
Okay. All right. We are going to jump over into our last segment. As you guys know what this is all about, we are going to be heading into the Week 14 games. I see two spreads that are well over, actually three spreads that are 10.5 points or higher. 1, 2, 3 of them. That's 6.5 to 7.5, and the others are pretty much within the 3.5 to 4.5 range. So we have no pick'em games this week. As you guys know, we have our lead pipe locks, which makes it kind of interesting for you guys. So we're going to go ahead and get started and jumping right into this. First game on the list, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Indianapolis Colts, and Rich Sporting Books is looking for the Colts to jump back into the win column with a 6.5 point spread. We are going to go ahead and start with James.
Jacksonville. Indianapolis offense is way too pass heavy, and Jacksonville has an okay pass defense. I just don't think that Indianapolis's pass defense is going to be able to stop Jacksonville being the 15th ranked pass defense in the league.
Okay. Mitch.
Jacksonville is 0-4 in the division. They're 1-7 in conference play. Indianapolis is an AFC East team. Indianapolis wins.
All right. Dean.
The logic is simplistic and reductionist. Notice I said that Indianapolis could easily lose 2 of those 3 games, and I didn't even talk about Jacksonville. Well, I'm predicting that Jacksonville is going to punt the Colts out of the playoffs by beating them at home, and it may be a close game, but Jacksonville wins this game.
He's calling for the upset. I'm going to go with the other guys. I'm calling for the Colts to win this week. I'm just going to – actually, I'm going to have some fun and start this off. I'm going to put my lead pipe block on this one. I'm calling for the Colts. Yes, I beat them last week, but I think they're going to recover from that because they're in for the fight of their life. They're in for a playoff spot, trying to do what they can to get in there. So I'm going to put my lead pipe block on the Colts this week, straight out the gate. Next game up, we have the New England Patriots hosting the Houston Oilers, and they are giving the Oilers 10.5. Dean.
Yeah, and they're going to be worthy of that 10.5 and probably some more. Houston wins this game on the road and covers the spread.
All right. James.
My lead pipe block is Houston. Houston's on a mission. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston wins the division.
All right. Mitch.
I will take the first 2 and raise it by 1. Houston, New England's going to prove.
All right. Next game up, we have the LA Chargers hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are giving the Steelers 4.5. Mitch.
It's going to go with, well, hang on a second. I'm going to go Steelers. But if you take a quick look at this, Steelers only won 1 game on the road this year. Only 1 road win. And Los Angeles is actually 5-1 at home. So, you know what? I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I just think they're a bit stronger right now. I'm going with Pittsburgh.
Okay. Dean.
Yeah, the Chargers are going to be back to tanking this week, and everyone knows what that means. That means they're going to be winning. Chargers will win this game at home.
All right. James.
The passing games, because neither of them play pass defense and both of them like to throw the ball. I think LA is going to win. I think LA's got something to prove this week.
All right. I gotta go with my boys. I'm going with Pittsburgh this week for the win and for them to keep on that roll. So I'm going with Pittsburgh this week. Next game up, we have Shuggy and his Packers taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, and they are giving Shuggy 6.5. Dean.
Yeah, the Packers are definitely going to do some things this week, and they're going to do some really good things, and it's going to be enough to beat the Raiders at home. Tigers will win, and I'm going to put a lead pipe lock on this game.
All right.
Tigers win.
James.
I think the Las Vegas team will do a better job at losing the game, so Green Bay will win, and so Green Bay will win.
All right. Mitch.
Got very sound logic in this pick. When I look at these teams, Green Bay is winless against the AFC. Las Vegas, their only win is against the NFC. That said, put a lead pipe lock on Las Vegas. Put it all in on Vegas. Let's win this thing.
Lead pipe curse. That's a lead pipe curse.
All right. So I see that. I see Mitch is in Vegas doing his gambling, but I'm gonna put my chips in on Green Bay this week to win. So, all right, Shuggy, don't. Yeah, come on, Shuggy, got to step it up. So, next game we have the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Denver Broncos. Actually, I think if they would have made this a pick'em game, I think that would have been apropos. But they are giving the Broncos 3.5 on this one. James.
I would take Denver, and I would even give the points because the Denver has the best rush offense in the league, has the best rush defense in the league, and San Francisco doesn't have a good pass offense and doesn't have a good rush defense. This game probably will not even be close.
All right, Mitch.
I'm looking at this very closely, and Denver is 4-3 on the road. San Francisco is 4-2 at home. So this game's in San Francisco. I need Denver to lose, so I'm going San Francisco.
All right, Dean.
That sounds to me like Denver should be favored by about 8.5. Denver will win this game on the road.
All right, I'm gonna go with the favorite. I'm going with the Broncos with the point spread. It's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be a very close game, but I'm going with the Broncos to take it out at the end. Next game we have is the New York Jets taking on the Washington Redskins. They are giving the Jets 3.5. Mitch.
Yeah, I think Washington wins this game, and I think he could potentially be by 10 or more points.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I think Jerry's going to scout the Jets. He's going to look at how other teams have beaten the Jets this season. He's going to do a little bit better job of it. And, yeah, I could see a win by at least a touchdown by Washington on the road against the Jets. Washington wins.
All right, James.
We're all in agreement. Washington's the more active person right now, so I think Washington wins.
I think we're all in concurrence. I normally don't go against the Jets, but I'm gonna take the Redskins for the upset. Going with the Redskins this week. Coming down to our final three games, we have the Vikings taking on the Giants. They are giving the Vikings a whopping 17.5. James.
Mitch, this is how Barney's going to show you how to play the Giants. It's not even close. Running clock, second half, blowout.
Okay. Mitch.
Yeah, the near 3-touchdown win or whatever wasn't enough. So. All right, I agree. I think the Giants are going to get torched on the road again. I'm going with the Vikings, but y'all knew that before y'all even turned the show on.
Yeah. Dean.
Yeah, the purple juggernaut will not be stopped, will not even be contained this week. Easily, Vikings at home win big.
All right. Mitch, give me one of them pom-poms. Going with the Vikings as well. Last two games up, we have the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. They are giving the Eagles 14.5. Mitch.
Yeah, this is interesting because, if you look at the power rankings out on our website, Philadelphia is the number one team on our power rankings. Atlanta is last, even though they have 2 wins, and Las Vegas and the Giants only have 1 win. Both of Atlanta's wins are against the 1-win Giants, and so, I'm going to lean ever so slightly to Philadelphia winning this game.
All right, Dean, you're up.
Slightly. Well, let's keep it real. I mean, we're playing the best team in the league. We're playing at home, but we're playing the best team in the league.
You're not playing Minnesota.
Well, according to the power ranking that Mitch just cited. So, we're going to play the game because on the schedule we have to play the game. But all I can say, in the finest tradition of our friend over there, we are going to be just honored to take the field with these guys. That's all I can say.
All right, James.
I think Philadelphia will pull it out. I want to point out that, though, when these two teams played last time, everybody on this podcast picked Atlanta. just a reminder.
What were we thinking?
Yeah, good memory. This week I'm gonna go different. I'm going with Philly this week. Dean, do your scouting and prove me wrong, but going with Philly this week. Just threw up in my mouth a little bit. Sorry. Last game for week 14. We have the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Chicago Cardinals. Clearly, Seattle's not going anywhere, but Chicago has something to play for. We're going to start this one in the same way we started the beginning of the show. We're going to start this one with James.
I'm really hoping Seattle wins, but I think Chicago will pull this one out. I hope it's not what I want. But Chicago plays Seattle twice, so this is a great chance for Seattle to get 2 wins by scouting them really, really well. Come on, Mark. This is a win you must have by picking Chicago.
All right. Mitch.
Seattle has not won a single division game this year. Not one stinking game in the.
They have Green Bay. They have Green Bay in the division.
I know you would think that they would have at least beaten Green Bay, but they haven't won a single game in this division.
Yeah, I think
I think Chicago is in that division, so I'm going to go with Chicago.
All right. Dean.
That's exactly why after scouting Chicago, that's exactly why Seattle is going to win, because they are going to win a division again. Seahawks win this weekend.
All right. Real simple. Go Hawks. I mean, I know that I've had some games that were close, but got to get over that hump. Got to finish off strong. There we go. All right. So we have wrapped up this week's show. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening in as we take our last trip around the table. Definitely want to thank James for coming on the show this week. Any final words that you have, James?
Go Blue. So glad that Ohio State lost.
Oh, yes. Definitely. Definitely. Dean, any final words?
Yeah, I was just realizing that there was an adequate amount of condensation in this broadcast and a good amount of trash talk going on between some of the parties. But interesting that virtually none of it went on between James and I. It was mostly among the three of you.
Well, see, Dean, you have to understand something. I only trash talk with Mitch because he's on my level. I trash talk with Mark because he lives in the same state. When was the last time you beat me? I mean, I think.
Hey, I've given you some good competition. Now, come on now. Even though I lost, pushed you to the limit. That means that those footsteps are going to be getting louder. So, plus we're in the same state.
Yeah, I mean, footsteps getting louder. I mean,
oh wait a minute, I have beat you. I beat you last season.
You have. I know you have. You beat me last season. I know that. That's right.
You putting 3 scorpions on a bottle, and I'll just sit here and listen.
I mean, when your team doesn't play offense or defense, it's hard to trash talk. I mean, it's really hard to trash talk.
Wow. Okay. Mitch, any final words for you to take us out of here?
Yeah, I hope everyone is ready for a fun Friday Night Lights. I will update everyone on the start of Friday Night Lights probably Friday morning, but likely it will be around between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. But if that changes, if we start earlier, I'll let everybody know. But I'll know for sure when kickoff will be probably Friday morning. But look forward to another fun night of Friday Night Lights.
All right. Other than that?
Well, other than that, Mark, I guess the only thing left to do now is let's get it.
Oh, you forgot your cue.
I know. I forgot my tagline.
You got to work on that.
That's the only reason y'all have me on the show.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason why we got you is for your tagline, dude. Other than that, you got to go.
I know. It's a trademark.
Let's send the notice and say you're fired.
All right.